Committee Member Hunter,
Present.
Vice Chair Ostavar,
Here.
Committee Member Palmer.
Here.
Committee Member Sanders. And we have Chair Pauly and Committee Members Turgeon, Member Turgeon absent today. Staff present is Planning Manager Hill, Principal Planner Roveri, and Recording Secretary Argenbright. Information on participating in this meeting and providing public comment, including remotely or by Zoom or telephone, is on this meeting's agenda, which is online at monterey.gov/agendas. Remote commenters will be muted until it is their turn to speak, and a timer will be shown on the screen. If you are connected on Zoom, the timer is accurate with no delay. In the chamber, we recommend keeping phones and devices muted to prevent audio interference with the meeting. Thank you for participating in your city government.
Thank you. This time I'll open the consent agenda. Are there any members of the public or commission or committee that would like to say anything about the consent agenda?
There are no attendees online with their hands raised.
Thank you.
Move to approve the March 5th meeting minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. The motion carries. All right, can we open public comments for items not on the agenda? Don't see anyone in the room.
And there are still no attendees online with their hands raised.
Okay. All right. First public appearance. Looks like we have 1150 Moonrest Avenue.
Thank you, Vice Chair Ostavar. My name is Fernanda Roveri, Principal Planner for the City of Monterey. Let me share my screen. (1150) Monrose Avenue is a sign permit application for 2 vehicle-oriented signs. Staff's recommendation is that the ARC adopt a resolution to approve the sign permit application as submitted. The site is, again, 1150 Monrose Avenue. The general plan and zoning designations for the site is visitor accommodation facility. The hotel is America's Best Value Inn. It's at the corner of Cass Street and Monrose Avenue. Currently, there are 4 signs on the property at various locations. They're numbered 1 through 4 on the image. And the proposal is to replace 2 of them. So 2 vehicle-oriented signs, and to remove the other 2 that are not being replaced. So signs 1 and 3 on the image would be replaced, and signs 2 and 4 would be removed. Sign 1 would be replaced. The current sign is a vehicle-oriented sign, and it is currently at 9 feet 1 inch above grade. And the proposal is to lower it to 8 feet, but make it bigger, make it 25 square feet. And that's 5 feet by 5 feet. It would have the new branding reflected on the sign face. Sign 3 would be replaced as well. The current height of sign 3 is 7 feet above grade. And it would be replaced with a bigger sign, again, 25 square feet, 5 by 5. And it would be at 8 feet from grade, which is the maximum allowed by the sign guidelines. So again, sign 1 is along Monrose Avenue. Sign 3 is at the corner of Monrose and Cass. Signs 2 and 4 would not be replaced. I just wanted to call your attention to one sign guideline that the proposal is inconsistent with. Other than that, the proposal achieves the purposes and objectives of the sign ordinance in that the signs are not a proliferation of signs. There would be only 2. The sign guidelines allow 1 vehicle-oriented sign per street frontage. And this lot has 2 frontages, one on Cass and one on Munros. The sign's purpose is to identify the business from the street. And the proposal is also consistent with the general plan in that the signs serve to promote a hotel use, which is a permitted use. So the inconsistency with the sign guideline is that sign 1 would be installed on 2 existing pedestals, and sign 3 would be installed on 2 wood posts. And the sign guideline says that freestanding signs, so vehicle-oriented signs, should be installed on a full width solid base. And that's not what the proposal is. However, although the pedestals are not the full width for sign 1, they would still serve to anchor and frame the sign. And so the ARC could find that not having a full width solid base in this case still serves the purpose of anchoring and framing the sign. And for sign number 3, the applicant chose to support the sign with the existing wood posts. Again, not a full width solid base, but the applicant's desire is to have the wood posts because they reflect the wooded nature of that portion of the site, which is the corner of Cass and Munros, which has more than 1 tree at the corner. And with that, staff recommends that the ARC adopt the resolution. I'm available for questions, and the applicant also said that they would be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from any?
I was just curious what the signs are made of. What material?
Sorry about that. Let me pull that up. They would be wood signs.
Are they routed kind of with raised lettering as well? I saw they were wood, but I couldn't tell.
No, it does not, the application does not say that they're routed. So it just says wood sign.
Yeah, it's potentially painted or something. Okay. Thank you. I take it, and maybe if the applicant is here, we can ask this, but these are all branded. The lettering, the colors. The other signs had a shape to them. Was that part of the brand as well? Do you know? Or is that something we need to ask the applicant?
I don't know what, I mean, that they are wanting to go with a square shaped sign. I don't know if that's part of the branding or if that's just in order to make them bigger, they just went with a square.
Yeah, and the only inconsistency is the attachment. With
The sign guidelines say that for a freestanding sign that it should be on a full width solid base.
That's the only inconsistency.
Yes.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. I believe we can, unless is the applicant here? Would they like to?
I don't see a Chris Merrill on Zoom, who is the applicant, but if you want to use the raise your hand function to let me know you are in one of the attendees, we can allow you to speak and have a moment for applicant comments.
Wait a pulse or two.
No one has their hand raised online.
I move to approve sign permit application SI-24-0239 for 2 replacement vehicle oriented freestanding signs at 1150 Winners Avenue.
I believe we're supposed to do public comments first.
Sorry.
Um, are there any public comments?
I'll just remind the public that there is a raise your hand function, but I do not see any participants online with their hands raised.
Can you remind them just how to join?
I'll remind the public how to join. Information on participating in this meeting and providing public comment, including remotely by Zoom or telephone, is on this meeting's agenda, which is online at monterey.gov/agendas. Remote commenters will be muted until it is their turn to speak, and a timer will be shown on the screen. If you are connected on Zoom, the timer is accurate with no delay. In the chamber, we recommend keeping phones and devices muted to prevent audio interference with the meeting. Thank you for participating.
Okay.
And still no hands raised.
Thank you. Any comments from the committee?
It doesn't appear there's anything inconsistent about the signs worth disapproving them for. That being said, I don't personally like the design at all. Shape and the overall design of it feels cheap. But that's not what we're here to.
I mean, it is. It is our purview. But any other thoughts?
I'm not a huge fan of them, but I do appreciate the fact that they are going from 4 to 2 signs, which I think is good in that particular location. And I'm fine with the exception or the condition of not requiring a solid base for the signs is fine with me too.
Yeah, I generally agree. I've found these unappealing every time I've walked by, as they are, and I think they haven't really improved that. In some ways, they've gotten worse in sort of I usually like simplicity, but so to that end, though, it is hard to deny this when they are reducing the number of signs. It is staff recommendation. It is kind of, in some ways, it feels a little bit their prerogative to to elevate themselves or not. They're generally within the guidelines, but because they didn't do the solid base, that's why it's in front of us. And to nitpick it at this point would be challenging. I think it would be hard to, it'd be nice if we could tell them to make it elevated lettering, at least something along these lines, to make sure it doesn't just look like a poster. So that's the only piece I have some concern over. I mean, in some ways, if they could frame it, generally it would be nice if they went to a sign company to do these, and it appears they did not, because the sign companies that come to us generally are pretty high quality signs.
Yeah, I mean, all that being said, I guess if this were not just a sign, but an entire building that was compliant with otherwise fairly clear-cut objective guidelines, if it were something that accommodated new housing, for instance, I would want to approve it even if it were a little ugly. It's for cost benefit. So even though I don't like it, still in favor of approving it.
Okay. Any more comments?
Well, yeah,
Should you go back to your,
sure. Yeah, I'll just repeat it. So I move to approve sign permit application SI-24-0239 for 2 replacement vehicle oriented freestanding signs at 1150 Moonrise Avenue.
all right, all in favor?
I
Motion carries.
And that is appealable to the Planning Commission with forms available online and in the planning office within 10 days.
Fernanda again, thank you. 2600 Sand Dunes. Again. There's more.
Again, my name is Fernanda Roveri, Principal Planner for the City of Monterey, and I'll present to you 2600 Sand Dunes Drive. It's a permit amendment application as well as a tree removal application. Staff's recommendation is to adopt a resolution approving the permit amendment and tree removal permits at 2600 Sand Dunes Drive. This project, this site you've already looked at last year. You approved an architectural review permit for landscaping and other modifications to the site. It's called the Monterey Beach Hotel. It's a visitor accommodation facility. And it's an existing 4-story hotel with meeting rooms, a porte cochere, parking, pool, decks, and other amenities. As mentioned, the ARC approved an architectural review permit in 2024 as part of an extensive rebranding and remodel of the hotel and grounds. Building permits were issued and construction started. However, planning and building staff visited the site to do an inspection and found that there was work that was done that exceeded the scope approved. And so planning staff requested that the applicant submit an application to amend the permit that was approved and to correct the violations. The project or the permit amendment includes fencing, new fencing, landscaping, lighting, speakers, furniture, sauna equipment, a relocated parking space, and 4 trees that have already been removed. This is an image again of the site, and you enter it on Sand Dunes Drive. And I'm pointing to the courtyard area, which is the focus of this permit amendment. This is where most of the changes are taking place. This is what you can see of the courtyard from Sand Dunes Drive, from the entrance. You can see that there are trees, and those were removed. So this is an old photo. On the left is prior to the work. The trees that were removed are on the right side. There are 4 of them. And here the image to the right shows the unpermitted work that took place. The building staff noted that the fence has horizontal slats, which is not compliant with Monterey County health standards because a climbable fence could be a hazard when you have a pool or some other hot tub where children can drown. And so that is one correction that the applicant is making. They're changing the fencing. The sauna equipment was never approved, so this is also part of the permit amendment. And these are saunas, so there's a door and you go in. Oh, sorry. And on the right side again are the trees that are no longer. There's rocks now where the trees were, like little pebbles. And this is a site plan, or I guess a schematic of the courtyard area. Again, prior to work, there were 4 trees on the right side. The approved design, it wasn't clear. I mean, they didn't specify that the trees would be removed. So, but that wasn't part of their permit. And on the proposed design, they're wanting to obviously put the furniture and the sauna equipment and not put back any trees. These are the proposed design details. So the sauna equipment, the 2 circle ones are the ones you saw on the photo that are already built. And then there's a square one that would be on the lower part. And that one would be ADA accessible. There are chairs and tables placed throughout the courtyard area. There's also lighting being proposed and some planters. And the trees that are on the left side would remain. Back in 2023, the Planning Commission approved new stairs for exiting and fire egress purposes. And back then, the plans didn't show that there would be a parking spot lost. But after staff inspected the site, they found that a parking space was missing. And the applicant stated that the new stairs required that parking space to be lost. And here it is in blue, the parking space lost and the new staircase. And this was approved by the Planning Commission. And so the applicant is now proposing that to relocate that parking spot on the green spot here. The applicant also installed speakers throughout the site, the hotel grounds, without permits. And these speakers, you insert them into the ground. So they have a stake. They're proposed in the deck areas that face the beach. And then these ones that are symbol with a red square are proposed to be hung on the fence in the pool area here. There's also those freestanding speakers proposed on the courtyard area. And as I mentioned, the applicant is going to correct the fencing that had horizontal slats so that it complies with Monterey County health requirements. So they're proposing vertical slats, and they're proposing to paint it in this Mount Etna color, which would match the building exterior. And so that fence would also be all along the pool and the sauna equipment area. This shows another image of the 4 trees that were removed. This photo shows 3, but then there's a 4th one in the other corner. The applicant stated that these were magnolia trees and that they were dead. However, there was no evidence of their health status. So in order to approve this permit, the ARC must make 4 findings. One of them is that the proposed siding, form, mass, and architectural style are appropriate for the site, immediate area, and city. And staff found that there were no changes in siding, form, mass, or style. There are no vertical structures proposed that would be visible off-site. And the relocated parking space would not impede traffic movement. It's an appropriate space because it's already the surface is already paved. And it would meet the minimum parking space dimensions of 9 feet by 18 feet. The second finding is that the proposed project will not unreasonably impair the view's privacy or living environment. There would be no changes to views or privacy. Again, most of the changes would not be visible off-site. The courtyard lighting would be replaced with the same number and layout, and they would all be directed downward. The speakers would be installed in inconspicuous locations and spaced to achieve ambient music levels not exceeding 60 decibels as heard from property lines. And this is a requirement of our zoning ordinance. The third finding is that the proposed project is substantially consistent with the Monterey General Plan, as well as all applicable other design guidelines or similar documents. And the proposal is consistent with the dark sky general plan policy because the lights would face downward they would be fully cut off and the number of fixtures would not increase. It's also consistent with the visitor accommodation facility land use designation because the project would enhance guest satisfaction and add value to the hotel and the guest experience. The fourth finding is that the proposed finish, colors, materials, landscaping, and all the other exterior features are appropriate. And the applicant kept the artificial turf landscaping because it requires less maintenance and provides an alternative to hardscape. And they did provide pebbles in the area where the trees were removed. The wood finishes of the furniture and the sauna equipment and the earthy color tones would complement the beach environment. And the fixtures, the light fixtures and speakers would have a black/dark green metal finish to resist corrosion from the coastal air, and the colors would blend in with the landscape. There is a fifth finding because of the tree removals. The ARC is allowed to approve tree removals when trees prevent reasonable development of permitted uses. And the courtyard wellness area is a permitted use under the visitor accommodation facility section of the code. It is accessory to the hotel, and accessory uses to visitor accommodation facilities are permitted. And the ARC could make the finding that replacement trees could lessen the adverse effects of the tree removals. Staff recommends a condition of approval, which is in the packet, that would allow the city forester to determine the number, size, location, and species of replacement trees. And could also allow the forester to recommend 0 replacement trees if they find that the site is already overcrowded. And with that, staff's recommendation is that the ARC approve the permit amendment and tree removal permit. The applicant should be online, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, just a question. And you mentioned in the condition, leaving it to the city forester, whether, how many, what type trees to be replacement, or to say that there's no replacements required. Is that based on the density of trees or the environment, or is it a way of saying that, you remove 4 trees, you should put in the replacements? Is it, how much leeway does the forester have, and how much leeway do we have to say, to our recommendation of at least replacing 4 of on a type approved by the forester would be reasonable and an option for us to pursue?
Yeah, the city's trees and shrubs preservation ordinance allows a range of replacement ratios from 0 to 3 replacements per tree removal. And the ARC can impose the replacement requirement if they desire. However, staff thought that leaving it up to the forester to determine the number of replacement trees was appropriate, because the forester can look at the entire site and see whether it's already overcrowded, or whether proposing replacement trees would crowd or damage, I guess, take away light or resources from existing trees nearby. But you can all decide, the ARC can decide to determine the replacements if they desire.
And there's no financial designation per tree lost or caliper or anything like that.
The tree preservation ordinance says that the city forester has the authority to issue citations for unpermitted tree removals. and the citation amount is $1,000 per tree. And the forester is aware of what happened.
But
He's
that-
aware of the violations, and that is a process that happens separately.
Got it. And that's just as a penalty for doing it without permits.
Yes, that's the penalty. $1,000 per tree.
I've just,
Yeah.
I think I've argued in the past that even if the site can't hold it, it seems it makes sense to be able to hold whoever that is accountable for up to 3 trees if we chose. And they could donate that to the city, for instance. But it sounds like in the past that, for any other site somewhere that the city sees fit, but generally it sounded like that's a bit more of a hassle that you all
Oh, okay.
like that. Is that accurate or?
Yeah, there is also the option of, instead of requiring replacement trees, to basically charge the applicant a fee for the city to plant trees, but we haven't done that in the past. It's not very practicable because then it's more work for the city to do that rather than have the applicant,
do it?
put the work on the applicant to do.
Yeah, we're and to build on that response, our parks department has identified there's already limited space for planting of excess trees on the public space, and then it becomes a maintenance burden that the city then takes on rather than the property owner that's actually responsible for the landscaping requirement. So we've gotten some level of pushback when going down that. That's why we've kind of strayed away from that. I think we may be able to circle back to committee member Hunter's. What I think you're getting at is we may be able to modify the special condition that in the event that there is not room for replacement as determined by the forester, that the administrative penalty associated with the illegal tree removal be applied.
Implemented. Yeah, exactly. Something like that. So follow-up question on that. They had previous plans. They I believe had planted a number of trees. So they could also argue that those were their replacement trees because they planted them previously.
Well, that was a separate process.
Yeah.
And they just can't say that those were the replacement trees for these future removals. That's
Yeah.
not how it works. They might argue that they have planted enough trees already and that therefore they shouldn't have to replace these. But again, that was a separate process that already happened.
The appropriate process in the event of that would have been for them to apply for a permanent amendment, apply for the necessary tree removals and go through that process. But as Fernanda pointed out, unfortunately, or fortunately, you cannot illegally remove trees and then come back and then ask for that to be just approved without any administrative penalty.
Okay, I had 2 other sort of curious questions. The slats being horizontal is because they share a wall with the pool, or are the saunas considered the hazard?
The building staff considered the sauna also a hazard and required the vertical slats instead of horizontal.
And they were required to replace that parking lot. That's because they're required to have a certain number of parking per. Is that correct?
Yes, I first requested that they provide an exhibit showing every single parking space on site, and they opted to not do that and instead just replace the space that was lost due to the stairs, 1 for 1.
They could find a spot. Okay.
Yeah.
thank you. Any other questions?
I had a question. So what's the city's stance on, I noticed there's a lot of speakers, and having them surrounding fencing. What's the city's stance on that typically? I'm hearing that they're gonna be in inconspicuous locations around the fencing, and how's that condition satisfied for the city?
Which condition?
That they're in inconspicuous
Oh.
locations, like around the
Okay.
fence of the pool, for example.
Okay, they would be hanging on the pool fence. By inconspicuous, staff meant that they wouldn't be visible from off-site.
To the public.
Right.
Right, they would be visible to pool users. But the speakers that are proposed, well, they're already installed, but the ones that are on the deck, on the beach side, like on the ground of the deck, those you can't see from the beach.
I was thinking, yeah, the ones around the pool seemed like more like an eyesore, but I guess if it's not to the public, then I was just curious about that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone from the public with questions?
I think the
The
applicant
Oh, sorry,
might.
the applicant.
We do have one person with their hands raised. I will also remind that the other applicants that you can use your raise your hand function if you wish to speak. But I see Jeremy Ross, I'll allow you to talk. You should be able to unmute yourself.
I got it. Thank you. How's it going? My name is Jeremy Ross. I'm the Vice President of Construction at K&D Landscaping. I just wanted to point out that we're not going to argue any point of the removal of the trees. I'm here to, humbly do what I need to do in support of you guys and the city and Monterey Beach Hotel. It was a genuine accident that those things came out. There was just a miscommunication. And, normally we would go by the standard of what needed to be done. So if we need to address any, fine per tree, or if I could meet with the forester out there to kind of negotiate what needed to be done, I'm happy to do that. If we need to replace a tree on site, we're happy to do that as well. So I just wanted to mention that as a point of view. And if you guys had any questions for me, but I just wanted to make sure you guys understood that we're here to work with you guys and not argue that fact.
Thank you, Jeremy. Okay. I believe any questions from the public?
There is also one more hand raised. So Steve Allen, you should be able to unmute yourself.
He's part of the applicant pool.
So applicant presentations, are we?
Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I just want to clarify one item that was discussed is the horizontal slats for that fence. I believe the reason that the health department brought that up was previously we had included some cold plunge tubs in that area. Those have been removed. Those are the only items because they're viewed sort of like a pool that would require that. So 2 points of that. One, the fence was designed that the slats only have a space that's like an 1/8 of an inch to a 1/4 inch between. So the fence is not actually climbable. I think the intent of that rule is that if the slats have spaces between them, that they can be climbed. So I think the first thing is the fence is not actually climbable. And then I think the requirement is only because there was cold plunge in there previously. The saunas, we've been told by health department, are actually not under their purview and wouldn't have that requirement.
Thank you.
So just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that's no other comments, right? So if at this point, close public comment and.
That was just the applicant, so we still have to open it up for
Oh, I
public
thought that
comment.
was the applicant making a public comment because
Oh.
it wasn't a presentation. It was just, okay. So yes, ready to open for any public comments.
There are no more hands raised online.
You, okay, we'll close public comments and open to committee comments.
Well, I just want to say that every time I drive by that hotel, just looks fantastic. The signage, the landscaping, the painting. So great job to the applicant and the hotel for making such a welcoming looking building that's in a really visible area. It actually inspired me to go visit it a couple times and have a good time. So I'm looking to approve this application, and I think we should go forward with the condition of approval to authorize the forester to recommend whether or not they should replace the trees.
Thank you.
I just want to recognize the good faith of the building crew there. I think it's good faith mistake that was made. And I'm glad they're open to working with the forester to make the determination about the trees. And I guess as far as the fees are concerned, if that is determined to be the outcome in a time when law and order are hanging by a thread, I think we got to stick to the book. Otherwise, I'm in favor of approving with the caveat around having the forester visit to determine the final outcome with the trees.
Thank you, Gabe. No comments? Yeah, I did agreed. I mean, it is nice to see generally all these positive changes with this. And I as far as the fencing and things goes, that seems that's up to the health department and you all to negotiate all of those things. And the trees, I mean, well said. Gabe, I think we just stick with whatever is the recommendations and our rules. Let's try and stick to it. Motion, anyone want to the motion here?
I move that we approve the application permit amendment dash PA dash 25-0049, amending the architectural review permit for ARP dash 24-0028 for external alterations, and the architectural review tree permit dash 24-0249 with the conditions as outlined in the staff report.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
And that is appealable to the planning commission with forms available online and the planning office within 10 days.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Amanda, for all that information and presentations. Any general comments, thoughts? Anything from staff?
We are planning on having a meeting on April 2nd, so please plan on attending. The items that will be heard are still somewhat changing, so I won't say what projects we'll be reviewing, but please plan on being here.
I will not be here. I will be at a conference. Then I can't log in, unfortunately.
Good job avoiding April 1st.
Yeah, I just a question. I saw in the city update that comes out that they were asking for application for people to join ARC. Is there any status update on replacement members for the committee?
I do not have a status update. I could next time that we meet.
Okay.
We'll probably have an update.
Just curious. Okay, thanks.
Okay. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you very much.